Egypt keeps finding things it wasn't looking for. In 2023, a hidden corridor was discovered inside the Great Pyramid, sealed for 4,500 years, sitting above the main entrance that millions of tourists walk past every single year. In 2022, a tunnel stretching over a kilometer was found beneath an ancient temple near Alexandria, carved into bedrock 20 meters underground, partially submerged beneath the Mediterranean Sea. And at Saqqara, the ancient necropolis south of Cairo, archaeologists keep opening tombs that lead to other tombs, passages that lead to other passages, a labyrinthine underworld beneath the desert that seems to have no end. Egypt is not running out of secrets. It is running out of explanations for why so many secrets keep appearing, and why so many of the passages that lead to the most significant discoveries seem to stop abruptly at the exact moment they become most interesting. In this series, we have followed hidden chambers from Ethiopia to Jerusalem, to the Sphinx, to the Great Pyramid. Each time, the pattern has been the same. Technology confirms something is there. The world pays attention for a moment. And then the investigation stops, the access is restricted, and the question that the discovery raised remains unanswered. What Egypt has been finding in recent years suggests the pattern is not ending. It is accelerating. On the 2nd of March, 2023, Egyptian authorities held a press conference at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Standing in front of the world's most studied monument, Zahi Hawass, the man who has controlled access to Egypt's antiquities for most of the past 3 decades, made a statement that surprised even the journalists who had been following his work for years. He called the discovery being announced that day the most important discovery of the 21st century. The discovery was a corridor, 9 meters long, 2 meters wide, with a gabled ceiling, a triangular roof design used in ancient Egyptian construction to distribute weight. It sits above the main entrance of the Great Pyramid, on its north face, in an area that has been studied, photographed, and walked past by millions of visitors without anyone suspecting it was there. It was found by the Scan Pyramids project using muon tomography, the same technology that detected the larger hidden void in 2017. The corridor had been sealed since the pyramid was built. No one had entered it in 4,500 years. And when the cameras were small enough and the technology was precise enough to finally confirm its existence, it was confirmed. Published in Nature. Announced to the world. The most important discovery of the 21st century. So what is inside it? Nobody knows. The corridor has not been officially entered. Its function is described as unknown. The head of Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, Mustafa Waziri, said at the press conference that the corridor was likely built to redistribute the pyramid's weight, a structural feature, not a hidden room. But then he said something that undermined that explanation entirely. He said, "There is a big question mark over whether this corridor was created to relieve weight on the entrance, or to relieve weight on a space yet to be discovered. A space yet to be discovered. Inside the most studied monument on Earth." After the most important discovery of the 21st century was announced, Zahi Hawass, the man who called it that, returned to his office, and the corridor remained sealed. The Great Pyramid Corridor is the most high-profile of Egypt's recent hidden discoveries, but it is not the most mysterious. For that, you have to travel north from Giza, along the Mediterranean coast, to a place that most tourists never visit, and most historians mention only in passing. Taposiris Magna. The name translates roughly as the Great Tomb of Osiris. It was a city founded in the 4th century BC by the pharaoh Ptolemy II, built on a limestone ridge overlooking the sea west of Alexandria. At its center stood a temple to Osiris, the Egyptian god of death, resurrection, and the underworld. The city flourished for centuries, then declined, then was forgotten. Today, it is a field of ruins on the edge of the desert, partially excavated, largely ignored, until an archaeologist named Kathleen Martinez decided that Cleopatra might be buried there. Martinez is a Dominican lawyer turned archaeologist who has spent over 15 years at Taposiris Magna, convinced that the last queen of Egypt, who died in 30 BC after the fall of her kingdom to Rome, wasn't buried in Alexandria, as most historians assume, but here, in a temple dedicated to the god whose story of death and resurrection mirrored the theological and political position Cleopatra had cultivated throughout her reign. The search for Cleopatra's tomb has not yet succeeded. Cleopatra and Mark Antony remain among the most sought-after and most elusive burials in the ancient world. But what Martinez found in 2022, while looking for Cleopatra, was something that stopped her excavation team in its tracks. A tunnel, not a small passage, not a narrow shaft. A tunnel 2 meters high, wide enough to walk through, stretching over 1,300 meters through the bedrock 20 meters below the surface. The Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, in its official announcement, described it as a geometric miracle, a phrase that the ministry's press releases do not use lightly. The tunnel runs from the temple toward the sea. Part of it has been traced. Part of it has been found submerged beneath the waters of the Mediterranean, buried not by human decision, but by the geology of a coastline that has shifted over 2,000 years of earthquakes and sea level change. Ceramic vessels were found inside the tunnel, alabaster statues, evidence of use, evidence of significance, evidence that this was not simply an aqueduct or a drainage channel, though it may have served those functions too. And somewhere along the tunnel's 1,300-meter length, or beneath the temple above it, or in a chamber that branches off from the main passage, Kathleen Martinez believes Cleopatra is still waiting to be found. The excavation continues. The tomb has not been located, and the tunnel extends further than anyone has yet followed it. 40 kilometers south of Giza, the desert holds a different kind of secret. Saqqara is one of the oldest burial grounds in the world. It served as the necropolis, the city of the dead, for the ancient Egyptian capital of Memphis for over 3,000 years, from the earliest dynasties through the Ptolemaic period. Under its surface lies the accumulated burial infrastructure of 30 centuries of Egyptian civilization, and it has not been fully excavated. Not even close. In 2023, excavations at Saqqara revealed 4 new tombs, including one that had belonged to a man described in his own inscriptions as the secret keeper of the king, a title that has no parallel in other known Egyptian administrative roles and whose meaning has never been fully explained. The tomb was sealed. The inscriptions were extensive. The man who bore the title of secret keeper was buried with more care and more ceremony than his apparent rank would typically warrant. What secrets he kept, and for which king, and whether any record of those secrets was placed inside the tomb with him. These are questions that the excavation has raised without answering. Because beneath the tomb of the secret keeper, the ground continues. At Saqqara, it always continues. The site contains a network of underground galleries that archaeologists have been mapping, intermittently, for over a century, and which remains incompletely understood. There are galleries built for the burial of sacred Apis bulls, enormous animals considered divine in ancient Egyptian religion, their mummified bodies placed in sarcophagi weighing over 70 tons each. There are shaft tombs that descend 20, 30, 40 meters into the bedrock. There are passages that connect chambers to other chambers in configurations that suggest a deliberate architectural plan, a plan whose overall shape has never been fully traced. And there are areas of Saqqara that have never been excavated at all, not because they are inaccessible, not because the technology to investigate them doesn't exist, but because the resources, the permissions, and the institutional will to pursue them have always been directed elsewhere. In a site that keeps producing extraordinary discoveries, every season, every year, with a consistency that suggests the surface has barely been scratched. The unexcavated areas of Saqqara represent perhaps the largest single repository of unknown ancient Egyptian material in the world. What is in there, no one can say, because no one has looked. Here is the question that connects the corridor in the Great Pyramid, the tunnel beneath Taposiris Magna, and the unexcavated galleries of Saqqara. Why does Egypt keep finding significant hidden passages? And why do those passages so consistently lead to questions that are not answered? The official explanations are individually plausible. The Great Pyramid corridor is a structural feature, probably, though the head of the Supreme Council of Antiquities himself admitted it might be protecting something undiscovered. The Taposiris Magna tunnel is a remarkable find, certainly, but without the tomb it was meant to lead to. The Saqqara galleries are being carefully excavated, systematically, though at a pace that means the full picture will not emerge for generations. Each explanation is reasonable. Each explanation leaves the most important question unanswered. What is at the end of the corridor? What is at the end of the tunnel? What is in the unexcavated sections of the galleries? And when Zahi Hawass stands in front of the Great Pyramid and calls a 9-meter sealed corridor the most important discovery of the 21st century, what does he think is on the other side of the wall at its end? There is a detail about the 2023 corridor discovery that the press coverage largely skipped past. The corridor's gabled ceiling, the triangular design that officials said was probably built to redistribute structural weight, is identical in design to the gabled ceilings found above the king's chamber inside the pyramid. Those gabled ceilings were built specifically to protect the chamber below from the enormous weight of stone above. They are not incidental features. They are engineering solutions designed to keep a specific space from being crushed. If the 2023 corridor has the same ceiling design, then it was built to protect something below it, not to reduce weight on the entrance. The entrance is 7 meters away, and the structural logic of protecting it with a gabled corridor at that distance doesn't hold up under engineering analysis. It was built to protect a space beneath it, a space that has not yet been found. This is not fringe archaeology. This is the conclusion that the head of Egypt's own Supreme Council of Antiquities hinted at in his press conference statement, before apparently deciding not to pursue it further in public. The corridor leads somewhere. The somewhere has not been announced, and the investigation, as of today, has not produced a follow-up discovery. Step back from the individual sites and look at what Egypt has produced in the past 3 years alone. A sealed corridor inside the Great Pyramid, confirmed by the most advanced scanning technology available, whose destination is unknown. A tunnel stretching over 1 kilometer beneath a temple dedicated to the god of death, partially submerged beneath the sea, found in the search for the most famous queen in history. A necropolis that has been producing extraordinary discoveries for over a century and remains less than half excavated, containing a tomb that belonged to a man whose official title was the secret keeper of the king. These are not marginal finds. These are not the products of alternative researchers working outside the mainstream. They are discoveries announced by the Egyptian Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities, published in peer-reviewed journals, confirmed by international teams of scientists and archaeologists. And in each case, the discovery opens a door, and then stops before anyone walks through it. The corridor's confirmed. Its interior is not entered. The tunnel is mapped. Its full extent is not traced. The tomb of the secret keeper is excavated. What the secret keeper knew is not recovered. This is the pattern that this series has been following from its beginning. Not the pattern of suppression exactly, not the deliberate hiding of specific discoveries by a coordinating authority, but the pattern of a civilization, our civilization, that keeps finding the edges of something larger, and then, for reasons that are individually explicable and collectively baffling, does not follow the edge to see where it leads. What would it mean to follow the corridor to its end? What would it mean to trace the Taposiris Magna tunnel to wherever it goes beneath the sea? What would it mean to excavate the uncharted sections of Saqqara with the same technology and the same resources that have been deployed on the Giza Plateau? The honest answer is that we don't know. The discoveries made so far, the corridor, the tunnel, the galleries, tell us that there is more to find. They do not tell us what we would find if we looked. Maybe the corridor in the Great Pyramid leads to a structural void with nothing in it. Maybe the Taposiris Magna tunnel is exactly what officials initially suggested. An ancient aqueduct, impressive in its engineering, empty of the historical significance that Kathleen Martinez has been searching for. Maybe the unexcavated sections of Saqqara contain more of what the excavated sections have produced. More tombs, more mummies, more inscriptions that add to our picture of ancient Egyptian life without fundamentally changing it. Maybe Egypt's secrets, when finally uncovered, will be exactly as extraordinary as the secrets it has already revealed, and nothing more. But the secret keeper of the king was buried with a title that no one else in 3,000 years of Egyptian history appears to have held. The corridor in the Great Pyramid has a gabled ceiling designed to protect something. The tunnel beneath Taposiris Magna was described by its own discoverers as a geometric miracle and extends further than anyone has yet followed. These are not the features of an empty mystery. These are the features of something that was deliberately constructed, deliberately sealed, and deliberately placed in locations so significant, inside the Great Pyramid beneath a temple to Osiris at the center of the largest necropolis in the world, that whoever built them understood. Their importance would outlast any civilization that might come after. Egypt keeps finding these things, and Egypt keeps stopping just before the answer. The corridors are real. The tunnels are real. The sealed doors at the end of them are real. And on the other side of those doors, in a space that has been waiting, sealed and silent, for 4,500 years in one case, 2,000 years in another, and an unknown duration in a third. Something is waiting to be found. The question is not whether we have the technology to look. We do. The question is whether we have the courage to follow the corridor to its end, and whether, when we get there, we will be ready for what we find. There is one more thread that connects these three sites in a way that the official announcements have not addressed. Osiris, the god of death, resurrection, and the underworld, appears at every location in this video. The Taposiris Magna tunnel was found beneath a temple whose name means the Great Tomb of Osiris. The temple itself was dedicated to him. The tunnel runs beneath his house. At Saqqara, the underground galleries beneath the plateau were associated in ancient Egyptian religion with the realm of Osiris, the underworld, the domain of the dead, the space beneath the surface of the living world where the gods kept their secrets. The Apis bull galleries, with their 70-ton sarcophagi, were part of a religious complex dedicated to the resurrection theology that Osiris represented. And at Giza, where the Great Pyramid stands, and where the Sphinx watches the eastern horizon, the entire plateau was known in ancient Egyptian as Rostau, the gateway to the underworld, the entrance to the realm of Osiris. 3 sites, 3 recent discoveries, 3 sealed passages leading into the dark, all associated with the same God, the God of what is hidden, the God of what is buried, the God of what dies and is reborn. This may be coincidence. The cult of Osiris was one of the most widespread in ancient Egypt, and his name appears in connection with hundreds of sites across the country. Finding Osiris at 3 excavation sites in Egypt is not, by itself, statistically remarkable. But the specificity of the connection, tunnels beneath his temple, galleries beneath his gateway, a corridor in the monument that stands at the entrance to his realm, suggests something more deliberate than coincidence. As if the people who built these passages were telling later generations something about where to look, not what they would find, just where. Beneath the house of Osiris, in the place where things go to be hidden and to wait for the moment of resurrection. Kathleen Martinez has spent 15 years at Taposiris Magna looking for Cleopatra. She has not found her yet, but she has found a tunnel that stretches 1,300 meters into the earth, that extends beneath the Mediterranean Sea, that was built with a geometric precision her own colleagues described as a miracle. In an interview, she was asked whether she ever considered stopping the search. She said, "If there is 1% chance that Cleopatra is buried here, it is my duty to search for her." 1%. For 15 years of work. That is the kind of conviction that comes not from probability, but from something harder to quantify. The sense, experienced by certain researchers at certain sites, that the ground beneath their feet is holding something back. That the silence of the stone is not the silence of emptiness. That it is the silence of waiting. The corridor in the Great Pyramid has been waiting for 4,500 years. The tunnel beneath Taposiris Magna has been waiting for over 2,000. The unexcavated galleries of Saqqara have been waiting for longer than recorded history can account for. And somewhere in each of these three places, in the space at the end of the corridor, in the chamber that the tunnel was built to reach, in the section of the necropolis that no modern excavator has yet entered, something is waiting for the moment when someone follows the passage all the way to its end. That moment has not yet come. The corridors have been found. The doors at the end of them remain sealed. Egypt keeps finding the edges of the answer. And the answer keeps waiting. A little further in, a little deeper down, a little further along the passage that nobody has yet been permitted to follow to its end. The secrets beneath Egypt are not running out. They're just getting harder to ignore.